Madara Uchiha is just my regular voice. It's just a change in attitude. That's a quote from the English voice actor of Madara, and me trying to do his Madara voice. Okay, we're back. We're back for round 2. So, we're going to pick up where we left off. Let's just discuss a few elements of the story first so far, I guess. Here's some Neji cards. They're not relevant. They're just cool looking. They're just new cards. I couldn't really figure out how to include them, so here they are. How does a person how does a person fill in the gaps in their memory about another person who has died? Well, let's take the example of Neji. So, within this illusion world, Neji thinks that his father is still alive. So how does he account for all of the things that have happened in his life where, his father being dead has been relevant? Well, it's sort of like if you've ever had a dream of someone who's dead. They seem to just be alive in your dream, and I guess it's a combination of you don't really think about it, and you sort of just fill in the gaps in a illogical way. So Neji would just think like, oh yeah, that one time my dad almost died when the Cloud tried to kidnap Hinata, and then Hinata's dad, Hiashi, killed the Cloud Ninja, and the Cloud demanded reparations. My dad, Hisashi, he almost died because he almost had to sacrifice himself in that moment, but luckily, the Hokage worked something out with the Cloud, and he didn't have to die. And, so it's very close to what happened, but it's just kind of like the death of Hisashi is like smoothed over in Neji's mind. And, he still remembers fighting Naruto and the Chunin exams and all the other stuff that happened in his life. But it's just, the inconsistencies are like smoothed over. And if you were to ask somebody under the effect of Infinite Tsukiyomi about, say, Neji's dead father, he'd just be like, what are you talking about? My dad didn't die. He almost died, sure, but he's not currently dead. And, if you were to probe too deeply, it just wouldn't make sense to someone in an Infinite Tsukiyomi. They'd just be like, what are you talking about? You're talking nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. What you're saying is crazy talk. So I think that sort of gives an impression of what I'm trying to communicate here with when you're in this Infinite Tsukiyomi and you're interacting with the memory clones that Madara has made of people who died. Okay, we'll talk more about those memory clones if we get into the Sasuke part. We might not. There's a lot to cover. Also, I guess it's worth saying I am sort of loosely trying to stick close to the canon of character relationships. So, I'm not gonna change or try to change things too much. This is sort of a what if the characters as written by Kishimoto were in this situation. So Sakura won't have a bunch of new bonds with other characters, which is good. I admit that is how it should have been. She should be friends with more people, etc. But for this particular video, the character relationships will be pretty standard. They'll be pretty close to what they were, or at least I'm trying to make them close to what they were in the actual canon. Might do videos another time talking about new character relationships. All right, let's get into it. Kakashi. Kakashi is living in the Infinite Tsukiyomi. We've talked about Sakura. We're talking about Kakashi. So Kakashi's pretty set on killing Madara and dismantling the Infinite Tsukiyomi. And at first, he tries to keep to himself. He tries to conduct research, learn anything about Genjutsu that could help his team out. He tries not to talk to other people. He is traditionally a loner anyways, so, I'm sure Team 7 would initially try to sort of stick together, but Sasuke would probably leave pretty quickly to go off on his own in Konoha, and Kakashi has traditionally been a loner as well, so it wouldn't be unusual for him to spend some time on his own. He is a genius. He's trying to work out something to do about this Infinite Tsukiyomi situation. So after a while of that, maybe a week of that, not making any headway, he's walking around outside and in Konohagakure, and he hears someone calling his name. To his shock, sitting on a park bench are none other than Obito, the real Obito, who's also in this illusion, because he is not dead in real life, he's still alive, and a grown-up Rin. Rin, as she would have been, had she not died, which is not not portrayed in this card, because there are only cards of Rin when she's young. She doesn't exist in canon as an adult. Kind of a spooky card of her with the three tails. Apparently they put the three tails in her. I don't get it. Anyways, it's not important. Rin is grown up. She's the same age as Kakashi and Obito. I guess they're all probably of similar age. It doesn't matter. They're of similar age, we'll say. Obito has had his Rinnegan ripped out by Madara. He's got a regular eye in his eye socket, so he is not missing any eyes. He appears to have both eyes. One of them is just a normal eye now, and one of them is his Sharingan, which wouldn't be turned on at this moment anyways. Obito is calling out to Kakashi, and he seems to just be a happy guy. He doesn't seem to have any anger or hate or depression anymore. It's like actually being in this world with Rin has just sort of cured him of all of his angst, of all of his desire for humanity to, I guess he wanted humanity to be in a world of dreams. I guess he didn't want people to suffer necessarily. He just wanted to be with Rin this whole time. This is not inconsistent with Obito's personality over the canon story. His personality seems to change, like, really on a dime, just, like, rapidly and entirely change. For a while, he is posing as Toby, and he is a jokey, funny guy. Then he's posing as Madara, and he is intimidating and imposing. And then he loses his mask, and he just becomes Obito, and he's kind of, like, angsty and a bit, like, it seems like he's a bit self-centered, and maybe whiny is the wrong word, but he does come across as a bit angsty when he's talking to Kakashi, and he's pointing at his heart, and he's missing his heart. Kakashi's, like, punched through his chest, and he's like, "See, I've got no heart." So I see no contradiction at this time to have Obito once again have a huge personality shift. He's basically got what he wanted. Kakashi is stunned to see his old team. They're all back together here in Konoha, in this infinite Tsukiyomi. And they sort of instinctively fall into their old roles. Like, Kakashi is standoffish at first, like he doesn't want to make bonds here or talk to anybody. But Obito is his old self. He's, like, loud and spirited, kind of like Naruto. And Rin is trying to get them to both get along. And even though Kakashi doesn't really intend for this to happen, this dynamic that the three of them have is familiar, and it feels welcome. And, after a while of this, of Kakashi trying to, like, give them the cold shoulder, they kind of laugh because it's very much like how they acted in the past. It's like a recreation of their old team dynamic. So, feeling that, Kakashi does decide to hang out with Obito and Rin all day. And as they spend time together, Kakashi kind of realizes this is what his retirement life would have been had people he loved still been alive, or I guess not twisted to evil like Obito. Kind of similar to, like, the dads of the ninja clans or the moms. These are people who, like, do have ninja training, but they don't seem to actively be on duty, like Hinata's dad, Hiyashi. He doesn't wear the Konoha vest. He's just wearing a robe. He's, like, probably not doing missions on the regular. And, like, Choji's dad and Ino's dad and stuff, they seem like they're kind of semi-retired, even if the Hokage could maybe ask them to do a mission. That's what Kakashi would have presumably gotten in his life, right? After many years of duty as like a top-level Jonin, he would have eventually gotten to retire, semi-retire, and, you know, if his teammates were still alive, this is what they might have done. They might have just hung out. So this is a taste of life for Kakashi in a world where not everybody he formed bonds with died. Okay, so Kakashi gets to enjoy a little bit of this retirement life that was denied to him, and it doesn't change his mind about defeating Madara, but he does get some emotional closure from it, and he's grateful that he was able to experience this kind of life for a short while. At the end of the day, Obito surprises Kakashi by asking him how he likes the Infinite Tsukiyomi. Now, as we said last time, Obito should not know about this, because besides Team 7, who have 6 Path Sage Chakra guarding their minds, everybody else in the illusion, whether alive or memory clone, they cannot learn about the Infinite Tsukiyomi. They have a mental block that prevents them from murder, prevents them from knowing they're in an illusion. So Obito should not know this. Team 7 would have deduced this by talking to people or whatever, or trying to get them to learn about the illusion. So Kakashi is surprised Obito can talk about the Infinite Tsukiyomi at all, and he asks if Madara made an exemption for Obito, or an exception or whatever. He let Obito keep his normal mind or something. But Obito says this isn't the case, and he says that because he was the Ten Tails Jinchuriki for a while, he does have trace amounts of the Ten Tails chakra in him, much like 6 Path Sage chakra. It's given his mind this sort of immunity to being tampered with. His memories can still be, copied into memory clones, as we would see with Rin, who has... the memory clone of Rin has, Obito's perception of what Rin is like, and Kakashi's perception of what Rin is like. Even if your mind is shielded from being tampered with, the illusion seems to still be able to just sort of copy-paste your memories, so it can, see what's in there in your mind, but it can't, move it around or change it. So Obito, like Kakashi, is immune to these mental blocks Madara has put on everybody else. Kakashi's upfront with Obito and tells him his intention is to break the Infinite Tsukiyomi. Obito doesn't seem bothered by this. He very calmly tells Kakashi that there's no way to break the global illusion, the Genjutsu, and that it would be better if he just accepts his new life and lives in peace. And before Kakashi goes, at the end of the day, Obito apologizes to him for all the trouble he's caused him, and Obito says he'd like to make it up to him somehow. And if there's a way, if there's a way, I wish I could make up, for all the trouble I've caused. So he asks Kakashi to come back and see Rin and himself again. And as Kakashi walks away, he sees a figure sort of waiting for him in the shadows, and his dad says, "Long time no see. I don't have a card of Sakumo Hatake, but he's in this world too." And Kakashi will get to chat with his dad now in real life. He sort of chats with the spirit of his dad after he dies in the pain invasion briefly before he comes back to life, but who knows if that's even real? That happened in a strange spirit world. So Kakashi is going to talk to his dad, Sakumo. Going to talk to him about the sacrifice Sakumo made and what kind of man it shaped Kakashi to be, and so on and so forth. So that's Kakashi's story so far. He's not tempted by the world of dreams, but he is willing to admit that, he is, for a man as broken as Kakashi, he gets emotional closure from talking to people he didn't get a chance to say goodbye to. He didn't get a chance to, show his dad what kind of person he's become, how he's grown up, etc. So I think it does have an emotional impact on Kakashi. It does sort of maybe I would go so far as to say heal a part of him that is sort of broken or has been very cold for a long time, even though he has bonds with his team, and there are, people like Guy that he's friends with. I think this kind of level of sort of trauma undoing by being able to talk to the people you either failed to save or are sort of responsible for the death of indirectly. This does have an impact on Kakashi. All right, we're moving on to the man himself. Oh, did I forget to get a Naruto card? No, I didn't. I should have gotten a different one this time, but whatever. We're moving on. We're already 15 minutes in. Naruto. What does he think of this world of dreams? Okay, so as you might expect, Naruto is completely resistant to the idea of spending any time in the Infinite Tsukiyomi's version of Konoha at all, and initially, he just sits outside of the village gates. He won't even go in, even though Sakura and Kakashi do and Sasuke, leaves and goes somewhere else. But unfortunately, by nightfall of the first day, his stomach is growling. He's he's grumpy. He's upset. He's hungry. He's forced to sort of sneak into Konoha in order to get some ramen. He's keeping his head down, and he pulls up his cloak. Not his 6-path sage cloak, which he wouldn't be in at the time, but maybe his sage cloak, the red one. I think his red cloak is really cool, so I'm going to include it here. So he's keeping his head down. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He thinks everybody's a fake, even the real world people who are still alive but have had their mind altered or mind blocked. He still considers those people to be phony as well. He's just really grumpy and upset and hates that he has to spend any time in this world. So he manages to sort of keep away from everybody. He eats some food, and he needs a place to sleep, so he goes to his old apartment, and he climbs in the window. He sneaks in, and he's just staring out the window in his room at this, what he considers twisted, untrue, unreal version of Konoha. And from behind him, he hears a voice call his name. And if this was a manga, you would maybe see a panel where you would see the torso of a man with the 4th Hokage cloak. It's his dad. It's Minato. It's Minato. Behind him, still alive in this world. And Naruto, I guess by this point, has spent some time with his dad, again in kind of psychic dream realms or whatever. He knows who it is. But he's not going to turn to face him. And I guess, again, in manga form, we would maybe see a panel of frustration and conflict on Naruto's face. And then, not only is his dad there, but his mom, Kushina, also calls up and asks what's going on, and Minato says that Naruto's home. So, this is just a Kushina Minato card. She's not pregnant, but I only have a card of her being pregnant. So now Kushina and Minato are both in Naruto's room, both sort of asking why he's ignoring them and why he won't look at them. And Naruto says he can't tell them because obviously he knows at this point that they cannot retain any information about this illusion. So he says they won't understand and that they're just lousy copies of his real mom and dad. And Kushina gasps, and Minato says that even if what Naruto says is true, and they were somehow copies or not the genuine article, not the real people, that even if they were copies, they would still always love Naruto. So the emotional strain of this, resisting the very thing that Naruto has always wanted, which is having parents who care about him present in his life, causes him to sort of break down, and he isn't able to he isn't able to sort of, give them the cold shoulder anymore. He embraces them, and I guess we cut to the days following. So Naruto does spend time with his family, and he establishes a bond of trust with these, these people, these memory clones of his mother and father. But Naruto sort of has changed how he feels about this whole situation, because he is absolutely determined to defeat Madara. He is going to break this illusion. No questions asked. He's 100% committed to doing that. But because he sort of understands, maybe through observations made with Kakashi or something like that, because he sort of understands the mechanics of what's going on a little bit, because these are memory clones, they're made up of memories of the real love his parents felt for him when he encountered them in his Nine Tails dimension, his Nine Tails mind, psychic plane, whatever you want to call it. Because he did experience them in sort of chakra form, and he felt their genuine affection. And that memory has been transferred to Kushina and Minato in memory clone form. So, in a way, it's genuine. In a way, it's true affection and actual familial love that Naruto is experiencing. It's just like, it's his own experience of them at, the little bits of chakra they left to speak to him when his Nine-Tails seal broke. So in a sense, it is real. So Naruto is sort of willing to accept that this is not a phony expression of affection, but it's real because it's coming from him, really. So he can't communicate to his parents about the infinite Tsukiyomi directly, because they still have the mind block. They can't learn about it. But he is sort of explaining things in his vague Naruto way, where he just says, like, I'm gonna change the world, or I'm gonna save everybody. And, Minato and Kushina are supportive of whatever exactly Naruto is talking about. It seems like they don't need to communicate directly that much. They're just like, yep, you have a goal, we're going to make sure you reach it. So Naruto trains with his dad and his mom for a while so they can help him achieve his goal. And Minato tries to explain how the Flying Raijin works to Naruto, but it turns out it's like really mathy. It's like very specific, like technical engineering level math. And that Minato is just like really smart and can like really quickly calculate stuff like this. And like Naruto doesn't get it at all. He totally, it's way too difficult for him. It's like insanely complicated. He totally doesn't have the brain for it at all. So he might come up with like his style, his version of it that probably involves clones somehow. Like he could pop a clone and then create a new one in like a new location as if it had teleported, but it's not really teleporting. Like a targeted clone spawning basically in specific spots. So he might come up with something like that. That's kind of like a fun Naruto version of Minato's much more complicated finessed technique. Anyway, that happens. After a while, Naruto comes face to face with another person he cares about that is dead. And that's Jiraiya. And we get a similar situation. Naruto is initially very standoffish. And, is conflicted about whether he should really be talking to this clone as if it is Jiraiya, his, beloved teacher. But Jiraiya gets under Naruto's sort of emotional guard. He, starts sparring with him, starts to attack him, gets him to, retaliate, believing that, whatever is bothering Naruto, they can communicate it through fighting. That's what Naruto does. He fights out his feelings. Jiraiya will remind Naruto about the times they spent together and give him advice about how to overcome whatever is bothering him, which Jiraiya cannot understand, but knows that something is bothering Naruto. And I think it would be interesting if Jiraiya, who is a smart guy, all in all, and is very good at creating codes, as we saw when he made up a code to communicate how to beat pain while he was like absolutely within an inch of death, and then he just quickly whipped it off on the back of this frog. Pretty impressive stuff. So Jiraiya can intuit that something is weird with the way Naruto is communicating with him, and he can sort of intuit that there is information he's somehow not able to process. So he's sort of like working around the mind block. He can't learn about it, but he knows that something is out of the ordinary. So Jiraiya is going to start telling Naruto like a bunch of frog fairy tales, basically. And Naruto is going to be confused by this at first. And after Jiraiya has sort of like told Naruto a bunch of these fairy tales, Naruto will he'll tell Naruto to like come up with his own. This will end up being sort of like a cute, childish, but also brilliant way they will devise to communicate about the infinite Tsukiyomi with one another without breaking or coming up against the mind block. So Naruto will be able to sort of speak in code, in this sort of like frog fairy tale code, using symbolism, something like a frog getting moved from one day a frog got moved from a pond to an aquarium without knowing about it or something like that. So a subtle code of metaphor that doesn't contradict the mind block, because they're not talking about the infinite Tsukiyomi really, but they're kind of hinting or subtly suggesting that something similar to the infinite Tsukiyomi is perhaps going on.